Welcome to the Pickleball Recovery Podcast, where we highlight products and practices to help you feel better faster, so you can spend less time stiff, sore, and injured, and more time on the court doing what you love. This podcast is sponsored by Zamst. Zamst reinforces and protects athletes by providing premium technical products in the form of athletic braces and supports derived from innovative materials, designs, and manufacturing processes for the ankle, knee, elbow, and more. Find out more about these high-quality products built to prevent injury, improve performance, and ultimately help you spend more time on the court at www.zamst.us. And use the code PBR to save 15%. What's up? Welcome to another episode of Pickleball Recovery. I'm your host, Tim Ringgold. How you doing? Hey, did you play any pickleball today? I did not. I don't remember the last time I played pickleball, you guys. Yikes. Yeah, life happens, right? So, I actually can't remember. And the reason I can't remember is I am processing grief right now. My stepdad passed away a week ago, and we're in the middle of just all the arrangements and the mourning process and the stress of putting all the arrangements together. And I've been out of state. I just got back, I think yesterday. And it's like, oh my gosh, the show must go on, right? There's like so many moving plates in our adult lives. Tomorrow is my daughter's grad party from high school. So just bananas right now. But kind of dove into the office here to finish this episode. I've been wanting to do this episode for quite some time, and I'm excited I'm getting around to it for, a few reasons. And as you guys know, in my journey, I have been the student. I'm the guinea pig, and I've been interviewing and working with experts to help me enjoy my pickleball because I've just dealt with a lot of pain and a lot of injuries, like pretty much everybody I know. Over 30, frankly. I was going to say over 40, but even over 30. So, the journey has been literally head to toe. And you've heard experts talk about different body parts. And, there's one big area that we've never talked about on the podcast, and that's the shoulder. So the shoulder was probably, one of the first things that plagued me besides plantar fasciitis. The first two things to erupt, when I discovered pickleball was my right foot and my right shoulder. And so I have yet to have an episode on shoulder. So today we're going to dive into it. And the way we're going to dive into the shoulder today is I'm actually going to share a little bit about what I learned along the way and two particular tools that I use to really help put things back together. And then there is a kind of a demonstration that me and Dr. Jody did in her clinic where her videographer came in and just kind of captured a bunch of video of us, what did we do to get my shoulder up and running? And, she and I have talked about this stuff kind of abstractly just on interview format, but we thought it would be cool because I've done this before with my trainer, Kyle Valerie, down in San Diego. We walked you guys through, this is exactly what we're doing. And I just thought that would be useful to you to kind of see some short demonstration clips of the different modalities in action. So I think between the things I'm going to share about and the things you're going to see in that episode or in the video, there's like 7 different tools to help you eliminate shoulder pain. Now, if you haven't listened to the episodes with Dr. Jody, go back, check them out because you'll get more about the modalities. She does describe them a little bit as she's doing them in this so that you're not kind of completely in the dark. But I highly recommend you go back and you check out those episodes. I lost track. I think Dr. Jody is, I'm looking at my calendar, episode 50 and episode 58, if that helps. One was in January. Episode 50 came out January 25th. Episode 58 came out May 6th. So there you go. You can go back and check that out if that helps. But so my story, as you've probably heard, I'm a soccer player. So when I drive a pickleball, I'm using my arm because I don't really understand the tennis ground stroke. And, when I started, I had been given tennis lessons, and I took a tennis lesson like the day before or after my first pickleball lesson. I'd been gifted 5 tennis lessons, and then someone else gifted me 5 more. So I took a total of 10 tennis lessons way back in whatever year that was at this point. I think it was like the fall of 21, maybe the fall of 20. I can't remember. I'm honest. If I'm honest, I think it's fall of 21. And that very first lesson I went out, I was swinging, at that ball, hitting ground strokes as hard as I could. And I was using someone else's racket. I knew nothing about stringing a racket, like how tight you string a racket and what that means to how fast the ball comes off the racket. And so, I had no business using the racket I was borrowing on that first lesson, and I overswung. And that day I was home with my ice pack on my chest and on my shoulder, particularly the front of my shoulder. I was like, I think I pulled a pec muscle. And it's, it's still up in the air as to whether it was, my bicep and I got bicep tendonitis, or it was a part of my pec, or if it was part of my shoulder, like what muscle was it? But that started me down this path of like, ow, and what do I do to fix it? And as someone who's mostly sat, as an adult, my shoulders kind of roll forward as I'm reaching for a computer. Not that I'm on a computer 40 hours, but, my shoulders roll forward as I reach for my steering wheel. And so over time, and my shoulders definitely roll forward as I play guitar of any kind, but particularly acoustic guitar. And in like 2017, I had frozen shoulder from, the 30 years of playing classical and acoustic guitar. I couldn't get a jacket on. You know how jackets have gotten like super tight? It's like it's hip to wear tight, fitting suits and jackets. I couldn't get a jacket on anymore. And so we treated it, and they were like, listen, you just, like most men who are middle-aged, your shoulders have just kind of rolled forward, pecs have gotten tighter. You haven't strengthened your rotator cuff muscles out of, just because you didn't need them. So they're kind of weak, they're stretched out, and, you need to go start out on this journey of strengthening those rotator cuff muscles. So actually, here's a bonus. I didn't even shoot a video of this one, but the first tool I ever used is a product called Crossover Symmetry. Gosh, I should have taken pictures and added this, but it's too late. We've gone too far. Crossover Symmetry was recommended to me by another pickleballer, of course, just like all this stuff. And they're kind of anchors you put on the wall, and basically stretch bands with grips, and they give you exercises to do. And so I started doing those pretty early on in my pickleball career to try to help strengthen my rotator cuff shoulders. But throughout the journey, I just kept blowing out my shoulder, particularly the front of my shoulder, like my bicep tendonitis, like that bicep insertion point. But even when it was just the bicep, I was still, anytime, one of my PTs or my chiropractors or my massage therapist would get back into my rotator cuff muscles and start doing any kind of tissue work on them, they were irritated, they were in pain, like one thumb, just send me through the roof. So it was definitely classic rotator cuff issues. Now, I was never diagnosed with a rotator cuff tear, all right? And, I was also not diagnosed with a separated shoulder. And these are diagnoses that, doctors alone should be making. So I'm not making any claims about what you have, what I had. All I know is I have had persistent pain. But I did have one doc who I appreciate. He was an orthopedist, and he was like, I don't think you have a separated shoulder, and I don't think you have a torn rotator cuff, because you can functionally do the things that you would be able to do if those were intact. And so I would pass all the diagnostic tests. So it was like I wasn't injured enough, if you will, for surgery, but I was definitely injured enough that I was in pain. Hold on, I need a little coffee. So anyhow, sorry about that. Where was I? Oh yeah. So started out with crossover symmetry, kind of strengthening those rotator cuff muscles, and yet it didn't help. So fast forward, we move. I'm working with all different types of trainers, and they're all saying the same thing. Listen, your shoulder's rolled forward. There's not enough room in the joint space for everything in there to move smoothly. Your, bicep, or not bicep, but your pecs are still too tight. Rotator cuff muscle still too weak. Got to keep strengthening one and stretching the other simultaneously. Working on good posture. But the more rotator cuff work we can do, the more that's going to start to pull the shoulder back into alignment. Okay, that made sense to me. But there was only certain exercises I could do where I, of any weight that weren't painful, right? And so there was always a limitation to this. So fast forward, I don't know how I hear about it. I think my chiropractor, I'll give a shout out to one of my chiropractors, Dr. Raymond Bunch, who's got offices in Tustin and in Los Angeles. Dr. B, he's like, have you ever tried hanging from like the, a door frame, just hanging? And I'm like, no, why? He's like, well, there's this doctor and his name is John Kirch. And Dr. John Kirch used to be, or Kirsch, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, used to be an orthopedic surgeon, shoulder specialist. And he discovered after he injured his own shoulder that there is this kind of unique thing going on with the shoulder that hanging can absolutely help with. So I went and did a little research. I found out Dr. Kirch has literally called the Kirch Institute, and his Heal Your Own Shoulder. And you can find out more about him at his website. He's kirchshoulder.com, and Kirch is KIRSCH shoulder.com. But he's got this book, Shoulder Pain, The Solution and Prevention, the exercise that heals the shoulder and relieves back pain. Fifth edition. And so I check out the book. I buy the book on Amazon. I don't know. The book's maybe like 100 pages. And it's deceptively simple. Deceptively simple. His main premise is that throughout like all of our medical history, as we've been taking imaging of the shoulder, we're always taking imaging of the shoulder with our arms down by our side. He said, so when you do that, you can see the classic kind of shape of the shoulder, and you can see the normal joint that is in the shoulder, which if I knew, I would tell you off the top of my head, and I'm like scrambling for notes. Here you go. You ready? The glenohumeral or GH joint. There you go. Quote unquote. That's kind of the classic quote shoulder joint, where the upper arm, kind of attaches to your shoulder blade. So classic imaging always shows you with your arms down. He said, but he injured his arm, and one day he was at where was he? The guy was at like a playground with his kids or his grandkids, and he put his arms up over his head with like the jungle gym and just kind of started stretching and hanging a little bit from the shoulder or from the jungle gym. And at first it was like really painful, but he had like this experience of suddenly this like opening, this relief in his shoulder joint. And he was just like, what just happened? And so he, as a doctor, he was kind of curious about this. He's already a shoulder specialist. So he theorizes that, there's more stuff going on in this joint when we activate it rather than when we're just arms by our side. Now, humans used to climb things and reach above our heads pretty regularly. There's a nerd word for that. It's called brachiate. And we don't do that anymore. And so he was like, well, I wonder what the shoulder looks like when we, reach up over our head. But how do you image that? So he had to come up with this like really creative way of having someone lie in like a CAT scan with their arms straight out, with like holding some sort of light weight or something to really extend the arm, and then do imaging of the shoulder when the arm is reaching quote unquote overhead. No one had done this yet. It's like, duh. You know what I mean? It's like, what an obvious idea, to take this imagery, but it was just physically impossible. So no one had ever done it. So sure enough, he does this and he realizes that when you reach, this is so funny. You're not looking at me right now, but I'm literally reaching over my head. You can't see that. But when you reach straight up over your head, like the ball or the what would you call it? You'd call it like the hook of your humerus. That's your upper arm. Awkward edit. That's not right. Your humerus doesn't have a hook. Your humerus is a ball at the end of it. The hook is the acromion, which is like the top of your scapula, and it connects to your clavicle. And that's what happens when an athlete tries to describe human anatomy who is not a doctor. Stay in school, kids. Jeez. That bone wraps up and like engages in a second place with the joint. So now like you have a second joint in your shoulder, and he calls it the acromiohumeral joint. And you can only see it when you're hanging overhead from something. It's like, no kidding. Wow, that's pretty cool. So he's on to a whole new thing, right? So then he's like, well, you know how if you wear braces structurally change the shape of your teeth, the joints in your mouth over time. And he's like, so what if if we just hung regularly as a species again, would that reshape the joint back to where it's supposed to be, since we don't do that anymore? So he started to hang, that's it. Hang out, hang around, hang off stuff. And sure enough, he realized it started to open up the shoulder. And then, of course, if you open up the shoulder, you allow blood flow, you allow movement, and things work better structurally. And it's like, it can't be that simple. It can't be. And so he has this easy to read book. I probably just summarized 80% of the book just off the top of my head, because he just repeats these same basic things throughout the book, gives you some instructions for what to do. So what did I do? I went out and I bought an overhead bar to hang in my garage, and I started to do the process. And the process is just hanging for 10 minutes a day. That's it. Now, I don't have the grip strength to hang for 10 minutes a day. So here's what I did. And I can't remember if it's 10 minutes twice a day, but this is what I did. I had a little step ladder, and he's like, you're not going to be able to hang all your body weight off your arms because you just don't have that kind of grip strength. You're not used to it. So do it weight assisted with a step stool. And then as you can progress to hanging with your full body weight, progress to that. It's going to be painful at first, but you're not going to injure anything. You're not going to make things worse. And of course, check with your doctor, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. So I go and I start to hang. And so you'll see, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, you'll see a picture of me hanging weight assisted, which means my feet are still on the step stool with a little bit of weight on them. My knees are bent, but there's still weight. I'm not fully hanging all my body weight off of my arms. And then in the next picture, you'll see here, there's a picture of me fully weighted, hanging, no support. And so here's what I did. I would just start for 30-second intervals, and I had my phone as a stopwatch on that step stool. And I would just hang weight assisted for 30 seconds. And then I'd step off and let my arms, my forearms and my hands adjust and recover. And for 30 seconds, and then I'd get back up there. Okay. Yeah. And this is what I would do. So I would do a 10-minute interval right then and there, where I'm 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for 10 minutes. So what does that mean? That means I hung for a total of 5 minutes. And then I would do it again at night before I went to bed. And that would be my 10 minutes a day. That's it. And as I developed my grip strength, I started to increase the number of those 30-second increments that were fully weighted as opposed to weight assisted. But I'll be honest with you, I never probably did in any interval more than 3 of the 10 fully weighted. So I wasn't even hanging for 5 minutes, fully weighted. I'd be like maybe 90 seconds total, and then 90 seconds a night. So maybe I did a total of 3 minutes a day of fully weighted hanging. And then the other 7 minutes was weight assisted. And here's what happened. There was just like, I started to feel this kind of space opening up in my shoulders. And the first like 1 to 2 intervals, there would be pain. Like I would like do like an arm exercise where I'd raise my arms up over, side to side in the air, like I'm flapping my wings, and I could feel pain in my shoulders. I'd go hang, I'd go down, I'd go to do the motion, pain gone. Almost instantly. I would shrug my shoulders, just doing shoulder shrugs used to be painful for me in my shoulder. And so I would shrug my shoulders and I could feel the pain in my shoulder. I'd hang, shoulder shrugs again afterwards, pain gone, bang, like that fast. I couldn't believe it. So I spent several months where I was doing this, twice a day. If I was home, if I wasn't on tour, I would do this twice a day, every day. And it was just part of my routine. And then I would stretch also. I would do like pec exercises to stretch my pecs to try to loosen that up as well. But just using the overhead bar and hanging from it relieved me of so much of my pain. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And in his book, he has like several pages, which is kind of interesting, several pages of testimonials about people just talking about reading the book. They're from Amazon, the testimonials. He's like, look, I just want to show you like how there's thousands of testimonials on Amazon from this book. And he's like, just read them for yourself. Cause like, if you start to see the number of people who have tried it and what it did for them, not all their stories are the same. So you'll hear different people for different reasons, different results, but you may hear yourself, in those stories. So sure enough, I read all the reviews and I was like, wow, this has worked in different ways for lots of different people as well. Is it a panacea? No. Is it going to heal like a grade 3 separation? No, of course not. But if you have impingement, this is going to open that impingement up. And a lot of us just have an impingement that's causing the irritation, that's causing the tear, or the inflammation at least, or the pain. So if we can just go back to the source and open up that space, allow for that healing to take place, great, because you can do as many exercises as you want. But if the structure in there is impinged, because, there's too little space for tendons, ligaments, muscles to move, you're in trouble. So that was really, really an amazing help. So find something to hang from, try it, talk to your doctor or your orthopedist. If you have shoulder pain, try that out. That was amazing for me. Second thing was the sponsor of this podcast, which is Zamst. I met these guys and I met them through kind of like a broker who works with them and works with a couple of different companies in kind of the health and wellness space. And this company is called STI Products, and Brian over at STI. And as I was talking to Brian, he was like, well, we have this kind of crazy thing that you might be interested in. And it's called the shoulder horn. And he ain't lying. This is a crazy device. It's a rotator cuff training aid. And you're going to want to watch the video of me using this thing to try to truly understand what it is. It basically looks like this crazy collar that wraps around the back of my neck, goes down under my arms, and then wraps around again. And what you do is you lift your arms over your head. You place your arms kind of inside the almost like a cradle on either side. And this cradle goes under your armpits and it supports your shoulders. And you'll see in the video, it allows my shoulders. I can do one of the most classic rotator cuff training exercises. But what it does is it supports the joint through the range of motion. And I got to tell you, the difference between doing this when you do the shoulder horn exercise, which is basically just, you'll see people doing this exercise all the time for rotator cuff. But if you're doing it unassisted, The weight of your arm plus the weight of your weights causes a lot of tension inside of the joint just to stabilize the joint because the weight is so far away from the joint. You put on the shoulder horn, it supports that weight. And now the joint is kind of freed up to move without that stress and that strain. And you can exercise those muscles without straining the joint. It's really, really cool. So started doing that every day, maybe 3 times a week, up to probably 3 to 4 times a week. I probably never got it more than that. But several months of working with that in the first half of this year, along with then I'm going to Dr. Jody's and to her clinic, and she's working on me. And then the last piece of the puzzle that I didn't mention, and I'll be honest with you guys, this is a hot take. Okay, you ready? Super hot take. I'm sponsored by Gearbox. My Gearbox Pro Power paddle absolutely has allowed me to stop overswinging. Now, you may like that paddle. You may hate that paddle. I totally understand that paddle divides opinion. I know there's a lot of people who are kind of like really hoping that's the next paddle to get, banned and delisted or whatever it's called. There is absolutely 100% truth to the fact that the ball leaps off that paddle. It's like a springboard. It's unlike any other paddle I've ever hit. But why I love it is that as a non-tennis player, I have effortless power. I just don't have to swing hard ever anymore to hit an effective shot. And so what used to happen is with my Control Series paddle, the first one I got, or the CX14 before it, or the CX13, oh, that paddle was like a marshmallow by comparison, or this GX5 Control that I was using, like all these paddles, I would swing for an overhead volley or just a forehand, a high forehand put away, or a high forehand volley, and or a drive. And I would tweak either my back on the drive, or I would tweak my shoulder on these forehand volleys or putaways because I would swing so hard because the paddle was so soft. Here comes the Pro Power, and it's got more power than anyone needs, and it's got too much power, frankly. I mean, the thing's a beast. It's very hard to control that paddle. I hit balls out all the time, and I always say on the court, that shot brought to you by the Gearbox Pro Power, because I'm like, damn it. So it's not without its drawbacks even to play it, but I got to tell you, for shoulder pain, combine these 7 things that I'm talking about between me and Dr. Jody and this power paddle, and absolutely we have a recipe for no more shoulder pain for me, for Tim. Yay for that. And so I think that's the most important thing, is that the takeaway from all of this is that it's rarely one thing that gets you in trouble, and it's rarely one thing that gets you out. And it's that simple. Like, people will say, well, I went for this shot and I injured it. It was that one shot I did. No, it wasn't the one shot. It was the 30 years that you sat in front of a computer and drove a car and didn't move around as a functioning ape. That's what did it. It set your body up to where your body could no longer compensate for how out of alignment and how atrophied or tight it had become as the result of modern society, or overuse injuries, because it built up over time and you weren't resting and you weren't sleeping properly. And so you had all of these chronic inflammation and these micro tears that are just building over time, but you won't take days off because you watch Kobe videos or Lance Armstrong videos or David Goggins videos and you think more is better. Well, for the 1% of the 1%, more is better. And then for the 99%, more is injury. And so, you have overuse injuries that are the result of, right? Too much intensity, too much frequency, too much duration, not enough rest. So it's rarely one thing that causes it, and then it's rarely one thing that solves it. That's absolutely been the case for me. It's been this, yes and approach to healing my body. So that's kind of part one. We're already at the 30-minute mark. Holy cow. So I hope that this has been engaging and interesting, informative, useful for you. I know there's not much to see here during the first half on YouTube, but hopefully you're just multitasking while you're listening to my voice. Part two, what you're going to see on video is you're going to see the demonstrations we're going to have Dr. Jody and I talk for a quick second, kind of set it up. And then you'll see her working the activator technique on me. You'll see her using the cryotherapy, using lasers, using frequency, and using K-tape. All of the above, right? That in order to support my shoulder. So hopefully that's useful and valuable to you. And this has been helpful. That's the purpose of the podcast, you guys, is to be helpful. It's like Thomas the Tank Engine. The biggest compliment he would get from Sir Topham Hatt was, "You're a really useful engine." So I hope I've been a really useful engine for you. So sit back, relax, enjoy the rest of this, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, Dr. Jody, we're back. And today we're talking shoulders and talking about the work that you've done with me to help me become pain-free, specifically in my shoulder, which was a pain point literally for years. And we're going to kind of set up and show a couple of different techniques that you did with me. But one of the reasons shoulders are an issue for so many pickleball players is if you didn't come from tennis, you don't know how to rotate. Mm-hmm. And what I see a lot, and I'm one of them, is someone who swings a pickleball paddle with their arm instead of with their torso, right? And so all that overuse caused all kinds of inflammation because I was compensating, and all kinds of problems in the shoulder that we spent quite a while unpacking and unraveling. And so that was the first thing we just wanted to touch base on. And so what we're going to show today is some of the different modalities that you did with me. One of them is this table that we're sitting on right now. And what is unique about this table?
Well, what's unique about the table is that it's a vertical table. You stand on it and I lower you down. So I get how you present weight bearing. So I know that the way you are on this table is the way you present walking around and playing your sport. Instead of crawling on a table, you could be crooked and I'll go, oh, are they crooked or is it the way they got on the table? So that's that. But basically, we're going to take you through what I've done with Tim's shoulder from A to Z today and give you little snippets of it. And I look forward to showing you all about it. The other thing is the chiropractic technique I use is the activator. It's excellent for sports injuries because I can get any vector and angle with it. I'm not going to hurt the patient if they're already sore. You will see as we walk through this. I use kinesiology with it. I like to say that I am the body whisperer and a biohacker. When I say body whispers, I do have a little bit of intuition that guides me. And there we go.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Just getting the spine connecting from top to bottom while you take 2 long, slow, deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. And then at the same time, I'm connecting with you intuitively. Okay, now we're ready to go. See, the leg length is shorter, about 1/4 of an inch. This is kinesiology. Everything I'm asking you to do, I'm checking something. And if he's out, his leg pulls up short. So his nervous system communicates with me through this reflex. Okay, so he had a lateral safety there. Okay, now let's retest. Lift the leg up, then down. Good, it's even. Okay, press your pelvis into the table and relax. Squeeze your bottom and relax. So his tailbone's out. So the thing is, he has a shoulder problem, but I've got to treat everything because everything's interrelated. Okay, you definitely can't adjust that manually. Squeeze again and relax. And that's very important because that innervates all the internal organs of the lower half of the body, prostate, etc. Okay, now lift up your left hip and down. Testing for a jammed pelvis or SI joint. Lift up your right hip and down. So it's jammed on the left side. And then I activate piriformis. And down. Okay, press your pelvis in and relax. Good. And then left hand over your lower back. This tests for a disc issue. Lift up your bottom up, and down, and then press your pelvis in and lift your head. And hold. Okay, and down. And then lift your head. So we lift up on L5, down on the sacrum, and it opens that up just enough to get that to slip back in. And if it's bad, then there's another technique I do where he's actually doing a yoga move, and I'm adjusting him while he's doing it. It's very effective. Okay, left hand over your press this hip in the table at the same time as the anteriorly rotated right pelvis. And he's helping me. And relax. Assisted. Active. Assisted.
Right.
Yeah, more than before. Okay, both arms up. A little off there. Still not like this. Okay, left arm down. Okay, turn your head to the right. And down. Okay. Now I'm going to reset by opposing the muscle fibers to open those muscles up, and then I get underneath the shoulder or scapula, which is something that very rarely ever gets done or addressed, even in massage. And I'm resetting all these muscles to get more range of motion. And relax. Look up. Look to the upper left corner of the table. And back to center. Okay, this relates to thyroid. You felt that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on this, on the cranium here. Okay, and then I retest. Side test. So now I'm testing all the front dynamics of the shoulder. I'm going to start with just compressing the clavicle and the scapula, and it goes weak. So first off, all the nerve innervation from the brachial plexus comes through here. And if this is encroached, he's not going to get enough juice to this whole shoulder complex to get it to function properly. Muscle spasm up, etc. So yeah, so I'm going to clear that. Go ahead and turn your head out of the way. Lift this shoulder up for me. And I just open up this joint. Okay, and back. Now ready to test. Good. Let's see if I cleared his neck. Okay, so I haven't cleared his neck, so I got to figure that out. Go ahead and sit up. Effective, but okay, now lay down again. This is lower cervical, so I'm just going to lift up on that. And I'm actually going to get a little lift on all the way to the other side and back to center. Good. Okay, so now we're going to check anterior shoulder. So he has that. And jam shoulder. He has that. So I'm going to take this and go, relax your arm, just give it to me. There we go. Good job. There. And then, this is the one that really made the difference for you, is unjamming the shoulder. Okay, here we go. Let's retest. That's cleared. That's cleared. Now we're going to check superior, posterior. Now the bicep tendon usually comes out of the groove from doing a lot of externally rotation movements, which you do in pickleball.
Yep.
So I'm just tapping that back in the groove, resetting it, and then I'm taking care of the humerus, external rotation, subluxation. Okay, there we go. And then I'll retest. See, it's holding. And I do believe that's it. Let's just check the elbow. And that's testing fine. There you go. That's the shoulder. Oh, now we'll go do the craniums. First, we're going to check for jammed ribs. He doesn't have that, so that's good. Okay, so now we're going to test here. Okay, that went weak. There. A lot of people get hit in the nose. There we go. We'll check sinus. So he has a couple things. So we are, and in sports, you do hit your head a lot. So this is important just to release. And it's very little pressure through my thumb. Doesn't hurt, right, Tim?
Not at all.
Okay. So there we go. Done. Now let's check jaw. Clench. Open your mouth. Jet your jaw this way, over here. Yeah, and to the other side. There we go. Good. Okay, and everything good. We're good. Testing psoas. Hold your leg up. And now I'm going to push. You resist. Yeah, see, it's weak. Now, with this is your core. This is your balance, your stability. And so if one side's weak, in golf, your hook or slice. In pickleball, you're just going to be off your target a little bit. So this is important because this is where the strength comes from. So bend this knee. I know this one will be strong. Just for the sake of the filming, I'm not going to test that side right now. I go in there. Whoop, wasn't on full power. And just reset, because this not only moves the bone into place by a high-speed technique, it also resets the muscle fibers. So that's normally, I also laser that, but for the sake of time, we won't do that. I'll just show you how powerful this is, all in of itself. Hold your leg up. Oh, relax. I need to, there you go. Hold it up, but don't lift it. There we go. But I'm putting all my weight on that. Felt a little different work to you?
Oh, I couldn't hold it up before. All I had to do was go boop.
Yeah.
Now it's fine.
So that's huge for athletes, definitely. Okay. Okay, so here we have a low-level cold light laser. The red is what helps with cellular repair to heal the injured areas. Works on a mitochondrial level. And then you probably can't see it, but there's a purple laser in here. So there's 1, 2, 3 red, 1 purple. The purple works on any bacteria, viral component, if there is any. So that's what makes this one better. Also, there is 4 electrodes, so that makes it, or lasers, that makes it more powerful. But then the circling of it amplifies it by, they say, a billion, So anyway, this is a very powerful laser. You can't see, but you will in a middle. That's getting the front, shoulder, neck, and the back. Okay, so now we're going to use my cryo machine. And what I love about this is it's focal cryo. You don't have to undress and get in a tube, and have your whole body worked on. We're working directly on the area of complaint. And what's great about this is it brings the temperature down really low, so you only need like 30 seconds to 60 seconds. There is a feedback mechanism that if I'm too close or the area is already at optimal, we're done, it protects you from hurting the patient. It will turn red. So that's also what I love about this. So what the cryo does is obviously it brings down the inflammation, immediately, but it rushes in all the soldiers, the blood supply, the healing nutrients, the nerve supply, everything like that. So that's why this is important. But main thing is it brings down the inflammation. Okay, here we go. Okay, so now we're going to stabilize the shoulder with K-tape so that he can continue to play, perform, but not re-aggravate it while we're in this healing phase. So how his shoulder was out, the main component was this was tilted, out of the joint anterior. So I need to stabilize by pulling it back. He also had an externally rotated humerus or shoulder which was having this bicep tendon slip out. So this is going to help stabilize those two components because I'm going to bring it around and secure it. This jam, that's just something that we really can't address, but it will be a little bit addressed through this because I am bringing it across the scapula, which is the thing that I adjusted here, the bone that I adjusted there. K-tape is brilliant. It's amazing. Okay, good posture, shoulders back, bringing it across and down. Those things that it's very basic, it's very easy. It's either it's going to help or it's not. And you'll know. It either hurts more or it feels really good. Okay. There we go. Voila. Get that. Okay. Feel like it's restricted at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, good. So this is lifting a little bit. I probably should have done some rubbing alcohol. So I'm just going to put a little piece across here to secure it.
Great.
Okay. Everything in the body has a frequency. The heart cell has a frequency, a muscle has a frequency, a tendon has a frequency. And this is really where you can get a deeper effect on healing and repairing. So what I'm going to use on him is matrix carrier, which is I'm going to work with the connective tissue. It's an on-body mode right now. And I just rub this on there. So first of all, we're going to take care of the connective tissue. Helps if you turn it on all the way. Had it half turned on. And you hear a little clicking. So this has a biofeedback mechanism. So it reads what you're doing, and then it works on it, then it sends a message back, and it's just super, super cool. So for right now, I'm just going to quickly go through what I do. So this is working on the connective tissue. Now we're going to stop it and go over to the physical folder where I can work on a cellular level. And this one's, you feel this one a little bit more. And it makes a bigger noise. I think the noise is a little annoying, but...
It's actually the sample from the Beastie Boys' Intergalactic Planetary.
Oh, you're too funny. Only you.
Right?
Know that, right?
Musicians right away.
Yeah.
Right? Intergalactic, planetary, intergalactic.
So again, it's reading the cellular level where the healing and repairing needs to be placed, etc. So then what's really cool about this is now I can go to muscle, I can go to joint, I can go to acute balance, like right after an injury, I can do chronic balance. And when I added this, because I didn't add this in the beginning, but when I added this, it made a big difference.
Yep.
Tim said.
Money.
Yeah. He said, because some of it might tingle and prick a little bit, but he goes, it's worth it. But it's not really that painful. It's depends upon, it's a very soft thing. It's not bad. But if somebody is sensitive to it, I can do what's called a broadcast mode. And the broadcast mode is just that. It sends the frequency. You don't have to touch the body. But when I'm working with physical injuries like this, I really like to touch the body if the patient's fine. Again, it's really not that bad.
Thanks so much for listening. Did you know there's one place on the web for all your recovery needs? It's at www.pickleballrecovery.com. You'll find all the products I personally use and recommend, along with exclusive discounts on many of them, as well as my blog where I help you make sense out of all the different products and practices out there to keep you moving and feeling better so you play better. After all, your body is the most expensive piece of equipment you own. Also, do you want to know the number one mistake picklers make that leads to increased pain, soreness, stiffness, and injury? Just head over to pickleballrecovery.com and download my free guide to playing with less pain and more enjoyment. Listen, pickleball makes us feel young at heart, but not young in body. So go download my free guide at www.pickleballrecovery.com. See you next time.